and I can read my things.
There you go. There you go. Good evening. This is the best turnout we've had in, weeks and weeks and weeks. In a week, yeah.
That was a great one we had last week. If some of you were here, the submariner, that was phenomenal.
Yeah, he was really fantastic. Speaking of speakers, on the back of your program is our schedule. So, Betsy, are you about due for parole? 60 years?
60?
60.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Coming up on full.
Yeah, 60.
60? Yeah.
Coming up on 61.
Yeah. So we have Laurel's lovely wife, Betsy, who after 60 years is probably due for parole, or at least leave. And Mike is here with us.
After 50, she said, I'm on probation.
Ah, there you go. There you go. I like that. So Laurel's going to tell us about his career in Vietnam, which is, if you read his bio inside, it is a stellar career. Wonderful. So we're looking forward to this. All right, that's all I have to say. Oh, the sign that says no public restrooms on the door, it doesn't apply tonight. All right, well, it's all yours.
Okay, thanks to Mark, Kathy's husband. We've got a nice presentation of slides put together. As you know, the Vietnam, the flag on the south, the one that we served over south of Arvin, is gone. It's all the North People's Republic of Vietnam. We're on the far right. Okay. Again, Vietnam is a place, it's a country, and it's part of our history. And I know some of my colleagues back there, I know these 4 or 5 of you served over there, huh? And by the way, just across the board, whether you've been there or not, have you been to the Vietnam Memorial in D.C.? Yeah, isn't it beautiful? I was very disappointed. I thought it was going to be dark and negative, but it's a beautiful, well put together. For the 2 or 3 who haven't been there, go there sometime, okay? Again, December 61, I went TDY to Clark, and I almost got in. TDY to South. I'll tell you the reason why. I was the 67th in Japan, Yokota, and fortunately was scheduled to get married the next summer, and they needed a PI officer to go to Southeast Asia, Vietnam. And I was the only single guy there, and the other guys who are senior, they had first choice. 179 days, hell no, I'm not going. They said, Laurel, will you go? I did the arithmetic. $11 a day per diem, tax-free, which would double my income. And I needed that extra money. I guess I had to bring my wife back. You know, we space saved back. It was like, so I won't go, that's a long story. God bless her. But anyway, so I went to Clark. They were running the show, 13th Air Force. And I'm not sure what the next slide is. Let me see. That's Clark. It was a beautiful base. As some of you have been to Clark, it was like a country club, huh? I mean, the old facilities, the clubs were great. I think it was this time I was at Clark. They had the Kingston Trio, the original Kingston Trio. That's the kind of acts would come to bases in those days. When I got to 13th Air Force, and the guy said, well, first of all, when they put us, they finished over to Tachikawa, put us in a hangar, gave everybody, if you're enlisted, they gave you an AR-15. I got a 50 caliber handgun, 100 rounds of ammunition, and then we knew they were serious. They locked us on a C-130A, flew us. We had to land at Naha twice because the plane broke. One of my colleagues turned out was a Catholic priest, had a portable altar. I mean, I was in my 20s, he must have been 50. And they said, we got to get everything on the airplane. So I helped them unload because I'm going to fix the airplane. We had to get it back on. We finally made it to Clark, locked another hangar. And they started briefing us about Vietnam. Of course, we were working on it in Japan, so I knew what was going on. But they had this map of Vietnam. They showed red hash where the Viet Cong were and this hash, and they all had dead assignments. And I knew mine. I was going to Saigon, room at the Caravel Hotel. My God, that was high living. was $11 a day, but then there's some young airman in the back, where is Dev 5? Right in the middle of the pink area. And because a lot of our policemen were going there, because in 61, we didn't have legal combat troops, but we had military advisors all over the country. So anyway, but the guy said, now Laurel, he said, your assignment is canceled. I said, why? We don't know, but you're supposed to go back to Japan. I said, my God, here I am, TDY to Vietnam. I'm not going to go back on my own. Give me some orders. I could see, Lieutenant AWOL doesn't want to go to Vietnam. And so he said, well, wait this weekend, I'll take care of you Monday. So I went over to the club like we normally do. I ran into a crew, C-54 guys, they were hauling junk around Asia. They said, we're going to go back to Tachi next week, but we're going to stop in Manila first, and then Taipei, and then back up. Only a pretty good deal. I said, okay, I got room in your airplane, so I hitched a ride with those guys, and I made it back. And the good news is, not good news for the crew, but they blew a tire in Manila. So we spent 2 nights in Manila at a hotel downtown, and we worked our way back. But we got to Taiwan, and the AC wouldn't let us get out of the air. Wouldn't let us out of the air. Wouldn't let us out of base ops. We could have got overnight there, but we took off anyway. So anyway, we made it there. 13th Air was running the show. Then I found out what it was. I didn't have an SCI clearance in the Special Compartment of Intelligence because they hadn't processed it. By the way, it took me about a year to get one. Today, you hear about these young guys, no background, no checks, and you see what they're doing with them, huh? They get on the computer and they give out stuff. They have no need to know it. It's terrible. One of our other colleagues, he's not here tonight in our poker group, he just retired again, and he was saying they're so backlogged, they give them temporary clearances. Not very bright. Huh? A lot of stuff to be analyzed, but we've seen in the news that's not working. Okay, now, considering back to Yokota, we've already been doing second and third read phase out. RF 101, everybody's familiar with that plane. It was a camera machine. I mean, it had nose forward, 2 here, 2 there. So we got tons and tons of photography sent back up to Japan, and we had to sort it out. We finally figured out we'd get truckloads. Our team would be working on one. It was about 6 or 8 teams. We find out we're working on the same darn targets all the time. Mine's 2 days old, his the day old. Finally, we decided we'll put a blackboard at the end, and if we got this, we'd write the target and the date, and then we'd say who had the better film. And you were lucky if yours was old because you could toss it, and we tossed a lot of film. The bad news is we had a catalog. No one ever. The old days, maybe some of you they used to take these. So I don't know what they were, plastic covers on 1 to 250 maps, and we had an India ink where the mission went. No one ever looked at those things, but we had to do it. They weren't paid. Okay, RF 101, Voodoo. I looked a little bit of history on it again. I think I'll on the next slide or not, but first they were in Kadena, the Toy Attack Fighter Squad. Then they got shipped to Yuban, I believe, in Thailand, and then finally in Tan Son Nhut. And over the years, they lost, I think, about 40 airplanes and 30-some pilots in that RF 101. That's a plane you don't hear much about. Again, you can see what I'm not real, but you can see all the cameras, forward nose, side looking, and we used to get all that film. And they were just, I don't know, like there was tons, literally tons of film. Then took me a year, maybe I don't think I had anything bad in me on my background. Took me a year to get the green door clearance. And I went back there and we're working primarily on YouTube. And we had talented guys, not me, but the photo processing guys, the agency guy, you know what I'm talking about. They never say who they were, but we know they were. CIA guy, he'd come on, he'd run the show. And they gave our squadron authority. We had a great squadron commander, John Paulman. He should have made general, but he, unfortunately. But John had talked to the agency people, and we were given permission to do the original film readout in Japan, rather than have it go back to the States or back elsewhere. So we get called in, Betsy may not remember, we get called in the middle of the night, we work for 24 straight hours, going over the film and making reports, and it was really exciting times, because it was the original film. Just a little anecdote, I remember one time I was on the film, I think I'm the first American that ever saw Fukien airfield. That's what we named it, because that was the closest town, it was appropriately named Fukien. And it was right there, I found it on the map. And I looked it up recently, Google, and it's, Vietnamese give it a different name, but in parentheses it says Fukien, so I got the name of airfield in North Vietnam. Again, the U-2, what a great machine. Don't go over the whole thing, but basically there's two big cameras, and there was a left and a right, that's the blue and the red. They take two pictures straight, vertical, then they go out one, and this one will go this way, and this one will cross over, and again, a ton of photography. Of course, the ones down below were the better ones, the ones on the right, vertical. There she is. You got her? Patty house, white picket fence, what more can you ask for? Again, you could get a telephone, but it was mushy on that end, you couldn't get it in English. There was one TV station, one TV program on Versus Network, The Untouchables, one night a week. Other than that, it was all Japanese, so we didn't get TV, we didn't get a telephone, and those lifelong friends there. I'm not going to read all that. Again, that's the picture they advertised it. You can see Tuiwa, it was built on a sandbar. Today it's a resort. I looked it up as a resort. I think I got a slide coming up later. TripAdvisor, they were showing number 2 of 8 hotels in Tuiwa. You know, they rate the top hotels. There's Tuiwa Air Base. I circled. The circle in the middle, right above the middle plane, that's our Intel headquarters. We're right across from the flight line, because we used to brief and debrief the crews when they went out. The one right, you go from the tailback, that was the chow hall, and then the second from the right was my hoots. I think got a picture of hoots coming. Now, Tuiwa was a going machine. We had the fighter wings, the F-100s, the lead sleds. That's why I'm not an aviator, but those things didn't fly very well, and a lot of them went in when the pilots tried to pull out. And sometimes they'd come home forcibly with pieces of tree on the bottom of the airplane. We lost a few pilots. We also had the AC-130 Puff the Magic Dragon would fly, the lean machine. We had A1, A2 fax, a few other cats and dogs. Once in a while, the Sandies, the rescue people would come in. And then we had the Misty fax. The Misty fax were fabulous. And they were right in our Intel building, that a little wing. So I got to know those guys pretty well, and because they didn't have their own Intel officers, they relied on us. And there's some statistics on the Misty fax. Again, 2 chiefs now. Dick Rutan, the guy that flew around the world. One of our colleagues knows him. Andre Fuel, he and his girlfriend. Remember that one? Pretty amazing guy. Say it again.
Dick Rutan.
Dick Rutan, okay. And two of those guys made 4 stars. And it probably says how many were shot down, 40-something, I believe. Again, there's the Ho Chi Minh Trail. You know, the trail wasn't just one inner highway. And it went up and down. We were over here, and that's where the Misty Flax would fly up the trail, low level, 500 knots. They're always 2-seaters, one guy flying it, one guy looking. And we didn't get a lot of photographs from them, but they were a fact. They would call in strikes. They would mark them with rockets, and they'd call in strikes, just like the slow-moving fax. But it was a pretty dangerous mission. The statistics prove it. Again, the Ho Chi Minh Trail wasn't just one trail, but there were bicycles, bulldozers. That's Mugia Pass up there. I mean, it looked pockmarked to beat all get up. I got to tell a story about the bulldozers and stuff. We started a program, you know, fighters. I think a couple fighter pilots in here. They like to. Fighter pilots are unique. They love, and so we started the Strike of the Week. And we put pictures under our old F-100s, and we'd find somebody blew up a bulldozer, or blew up a Ford or something, and we'd put it up on the wall, and sometimes 3 crews would knock out the same bulldozer. We'd give them all credit, we'd put it up there. Again, I suppose the kind of little human nature there. We had an Army glow. For the Army guys, they had it tough, but he probably the best Army assignment. I don't think he had a job. He had an office in our building, and I don't know what he did, other than I don't know. but he had a dog. He had a girlfriend, gave him a dog, and then he left. The poor dog was there. Nobody took care of him. I couldn't bring him home, but we fed him and took care of him I got to tell them this story. When they were closing, the Army took over their base. I left in 1970, and we knew that we were closing. The Army was going to get it. And my boss, we had an orientation with the Army guys taking it over, and he said, "What do you think of this?" And the Army guy said, "Oh, it looks great." He said, "No, we got one more thing we got to do." "What's that?" He said, "I'm bringing in bulldozers. Got too many paved roads. You won't be comfortable. We're going to tear up the paved roads so that you can be comfortable getting around the base." Oh, look at that. They were the firstborn. We got a dog. Again, that Patty House, God bless her to put up with that. No communication. That's we made some good friends who are still alive. We lost a couple this past year. That happens. But of course we had that. And back MPC, and this is how, in those days, you couldn't pick up the phone, or you couldn't text or face, whatever we do, FaceTime people. You made these little cassettes, you put them in an envelope, and you mailed them back. I've still got some embarrassing of Mike, hidden somewhere. We're 3 years old, right? There's the hooch. Hooches, except, the bosses had nicer facilities than we did, but these were things kind of, I guess, bolted together, 2 men to a room, and the common latrine down the hall. And of course, that's why I said I think I was talking to Phil about some young lieutenant who worked for me, wanted to bring his rifle home towards Norway, because he wanted to go fight the war anyway. He was always volunteering to go fly with people. And I could see in the middle of the night, hear a little spook, and boom. So anyway, that was the hooch. That was Christmas time, obviously. Christmas, what would that be? 69, I guess, yeah. Tunnel Survival School. These are file photos off the internet. I had no reason to go into Tuiwa. There's nothing there that attracted, so I never did go into the city. I did get TDYs over to Thailand or into Hong Kong. My boss was a rated navigator, and there were only 1 or 2 on base. We had a Goonie bird, and once a month they had to go to resupply things in Hong Kong you couldn't get. So I hitched a ride a couple times with my boss, because I was the waiting list to get over to Hong Kong. That's what it looks like today. Theoretically, it's a civilian airport, but it's all destroyed. Again, there it is. This is Huai Dong Street, and this is supposed to be the number 2 hotel in Tuiwa. And to think that they're upscale tourist hotels. Of course, it was a beautiful beach town. It was all built on a sandbar. Now there's Duck Lap. I went over there because we had a big brother, little brother relationship with the Army. This was 2 miles from the Cambodian border. Now when I went, there was nothing green. I mean, they Agent Orange for miles around that thing. There was no grass inside, there was no grass outside, and it was run. Well, there was a Vietnamese commander, but the Hmong people and the Manyars, they considered the American their boss, huh? Look, I went the wrong way here. Again, it taken incoming back in November '69. I was there in early '74, so we didn't take any incoming. We did fly in on helicopters. I don't like helicopters, by the way. The only way to get there, though. And we picked up a couple of Mountain Yard soldiers, and God bless those people. Loincloth, spare tire shoes. He had his AR-15, and we went into the team room at night, and they showed pictures and opened up. I don't know if they opened up Budweiser. They opened up Pepsi for sure, and they had a movie. It was movie night, and here was the movie. It was about Miami Beach, high-rise speedboats. Those people, they this like seeing Martians or something to them, I would think, in this little team room. God bless them. And that's the good news or bad news. But then they turned the lights back on, and 3 rats scurried off the floor. You know, because the rats were everywhere in Vietnam. There, and I learned the hard way. You don't stand too close to the mortar, because the first time I did it, I guess I'm naive. I put it here, man. I could, but they had to fire the weapons once a month, so I got to fire that and some machine guns and all that. They were just firing them into the bushes. I'm glad you guys were loading those sandbags, because if you saw there were sandbags, and by night, I guess I was a semi-VIP. I got the suite underground, you know, so because they had taken fire over the air, so you went down and you got real dirty, but it was sure safer than being upstairs. And it was a one-man room, except I did feel a rodent come across me during the night sometime. But it was, I'm glad I did. It was a great experience. Now, we pulled out, as you know, combat troops in 1973, and the Viet Cong were supposedly negotiating with the South Vietnamese. In retrospect, I think one thing we need to learn there, that the Viet Cong, for them, it was all-out war. For us, it was graduated response and all that kind of stuff, and it didn't work. And ultimately, the South Vietnamese government, of course, the Zim family was there. They ran it like a monarchy, and then the military took over, and the military, they started relying on us. And they were worried about saving themselves, and they wanted the Americans to do it all, which we were doing. Again, that's a helicopter coming out. Now, I have a personal experience. I've had a few Vietnamese Americans when I teach down at Sinclair. And this one older man, of course, Nguyen is like Smith in Vietnam. I forget his first name. And he went back to Vietnam. He had been locked up in a re-education camp by the communists. And they finally, because he worked for the U.S. government, he came back and he was getting his college degree here. And he went back and he told me, I don't know if he told me because he knew what I wanted to hear. He said, we don't even call it Ho Chi Minh City. It's still Saigon, he said. And the people there, they really still love Americans. I don't know, who knows. But I think they do. They realize what some Americans did for them. And that's it, unless there's some questions. Somebody must have a question. Yes, sir.
So what's the best memory you have? Beyond combat, beyond Fort deployed, the brotherhood, the country?
R&R, the Royal Hawaiian with my wife.
There you go. Coming back home in one piece?
Good question. What's all you?
How did you do without a telephone?
Well, we had that old car. Well, first of all, the limo wasn't on there. I had a little Thunderbird, one-seater, and her folks were coming, so we had to get a sedan. And Whitley, one of the guys in the picture there, I think we'd had a couple, I don't know, anyway. We went looking for a car, and outside this bar we found a Chrysler extended limo with jump seats and the whole thing. And so we drove. She learned to drive. She drove on the wrong side of the road a few
The
times.
dog got caught in the window going up there between the back and the front.
It was a fun car. Yeah, it had a chauffeur's compartment and then double set of rows, and it had curtains. And I checked the history of it. It belonged to the head of the Shinto priest or something. And because I was going to bring it back, because that's the only car we had, but it had gone through Japanese customs and considered a Japanese, and they couldn't bring it back, which was a shame. Because my folks were still in California. They were living on a farm. I could have put it in the barn, but I said I get to bring it back. But we drove around a lot. In fact, that limo, we drove it down to Tokyo, down the little streets. And one time, we got caught on a little alley street, and actually it was the middle carriage. The car was hung up on the street. And one Christmas, yeah, we went Christmas caroling. Was it 8, 9 couples?
Yeah, 18 people in
In the car.
In the car.
Oh
It
my
was a big
gosh.
car. We went Christmas
the
caroling.
little village we went into. I think they thought they were being invaded with the nothing food there was.
And then we went to my boss's house, and we didn't know he wasn't home. Remember, we sang in a skits called The Air Police. Some kind of crazes were outside. And then our friend Whitley, and one more little story. I quit drinking because I was the driver, but Whitley had too much. And we went back to our house temporarily, and he couldn't get up. He lay flat the rest of the evening. Yes, sir.
So is that the premise for the movie A Wonderful Life?
Yeah, Fred.
You go through Jungle Survival? twice?
Yeah, that one, I don't know if I have the picture up, yeah. I went there after. That was like a special trip to get out of country, because I didn't get, before I went, they couldn't work it in, so I went back after I was there. Anything to get out of the country for a short time was good. And you know how it worked, well, I'll tell you, you're correct. They put you in pairs, and you went out into the jungle, supposed to hide in the bushes, and these little tribes people would come get you.
Like Guido?
Yeah, the Greedos. I'll tell them, sorry about the Greedos afterwards. But they knew that territory better than anybody. And you had to be careful, because one guy fell off a cliff trying to get away. And you can't, those people, because once you gave them a chip, they said, me aggress. You give them a chip, and they got a bag of rice. But the first night I was there, I think that was the first time down there, I was by myself. I got up in the morning, I said, you always go check out the BX, right? So I wander across to the BX, and there's these bunch of little guys standing there with blowguns and spears. And I said, my God, what is going on here? And then, I don't know if I found out, maybe somebody else was going in, and they explained to me they're selling souvenirs. You heard the story about a base commander didn't want him on his base anymore. You know that story? Well, it's a true story. They lived in that particular area where Clark was, and they were being paid to guard the airfield, huh? And the base commander said, we don't want those guys running around our airplanes. Tell them they're not welcome here anymore. So the guy said, well, you better be careful. So I got air policemen. He said, well, let's do a test. So the air policemen were all put out, and these little Negrito people came, and they took and they red X'd about 6 planes that night and never got caught. Basically, I said, okay, let them back on.
In your presentation, Laurel, this cottage was outside the base of Yokota?
Oh yeah, where we Fuso, yeah. You couldn't get base housing as a young lieutenant.
Yeah.
And the good news, I understand one picture. I either walked or bicycled, so she could have the car most of the time, because I could literally walk through to the main gate, even though I was off base. And
Where was there to go?
Well, there's a lot.
Okay.
I found places to go.
Okay.
She and the gals got in the car, they went places, and I think somebody said no phone. When we moved up to Ruma Air Station, they call it a trailer, but you're on base. And we actually had phone service. A couple times we forgot, because we didn't want to know what was playing in the movie house. We drive on base to see what's on the theater. We forgot we could call. Yeah, what's playing tonight at the movie house? But it was an adventure. It was something you wouldn't trade, huh? Later. Any other questions, comments?
Going forward, 10 years, 20 years from now, when people log into YouTube, look at the story, what do you want to leave the kids and the soldiers and sailors and airmen, Space Force folks to remember your experience and what it was like in Southeast Asia?
Well, you hope you did good. You certainly had good intentions in trying to protect democracy, and it was, there's a great. I think I mentioned last time I was here. there's a great, out in the Air Force Museum, out in the, where the monuments are, there's a great SAC monument to the SAC aviators. The Cold War didn't end, it was won. I think we don't have to be ashamed or positive about Vietnam. Things could have been done better, could have got over faster. And who knows, it's a tough call, but you know, in fairness to Richard Nixon, who goes down in history, not well by the historians. But he did, not only opened up China, but he was the one that called the B-52 strikes around the clock in
72, Operation Linebacker.
1972, yeah, just around the clock, and that's what brought the North Vietnamese to the bargaining table.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. By the way, this lady does a wonderful job. She can always use more dosage, can't you?
Always, always. Well, I wondered why we had a crowd. Your poker buddies? That works. That works for me.
At least two of them served in Vietnam, I know that.
Right.
Dan in the Army and David in the Air Force.
Very,
And Brian would have, if he was old enough.
I came in the year after, I came in '76.
So before we do our usual housekeeping, since I see, how many of you guys are Vietnam vets? Okay, how many of you served 1955 to 1975? Anywhere? Okay, so do you have a Vietnam lapel pin? You do, I know. You do? Okay, you all have one. Do you have the spouse pin?
Oh,
Do you have a spouse you'd like to give a pin to? Yeah, they came out recently with the spouse pin, so I want to make sure I get you guys that on the way out. Okay, on the way out. All right. First things first. We're gonna get this. It's recognition time. All right, if you don't like it, Barbara picked it out.
well, she picks, anything she picks out I like.
Aw. All right, first things first. The Miami Valley Military History Museum Certificate of Appreciation to all who shall see these presents. Greeting. This certificate is awarded to Laurel A. Mayer, Colonel, United States Air Force, retired, in recognition of his service to our great nation and for his continued dedication, commitment, and support to the ideals of patriotism, the 17th day of May in the year 2023. Now, so we have looked and looked and looked and tried to figure out what would be a good gift for you. So this time, since we found this, we decided we're gonna go, as opposed to give you something that was of your era, we are giving you this print. Let's see.
Very cool.
Thunderbird, huh?
Yeah, that's the airport. Yeah, United States Air and Trade Show,
Wow.
Dayton, Ohio. 20th year, I guess, for the Air
Wow.
and Trade Show.
Was that, did somebody paint that?
I think it's a lithograph.
It's- yeah,
It's
it's a
lithograph.
print.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Super nice.
Engraved in the back.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's very, very
Appreciate
nice.
Good job, Barbara. You made it.
Thank you.
I might have to move a baby picture.
Okay, housekeeping. Do you want to talk about the veterans, the military veterans project?
Memorial?
Yeah, you want to talk about that?
Okay, we've been working on the Fairborn Military Veterans Memorial Project since 2016. And it's been a slow process. We've raised a decent amount of money to get it going. We are actually gonna have a groundbreaking ceremony on this Memorial Day, the 29th of May, at the site, which is right down the street here, the old Bath Consolidated School. Was the playground to the right side of it as you face the school. That is gonna become Fairborn Memorial Park. It'll eventually have memorials to police memorial, fire memorial. The two memorials that are gonna be built in the near future. One is a memorial to city employees. It's named for Alicia Eckhart. Those that knew her, she was the director of Parks and Rec. And it'll be the first memorial as you walk in. The park will be right there. It's gonna be a bubbler fountain. It's gonna be really nice. Off to the left of that will be the largest memorial in the park, and that'll be the Fairborn Military Veterans Memorial. Many of you which have contributed to that. So we're doing a groundbreaking ceremony on Monday, May 29th at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We were very careful to avoid the other veteran groups and their events that they're doing during that day. So 2 o'clock, if you can be there. We found a company that is gonna loan us 20 shovels. So our committee, you don't know all the requests I've had for shovels in the last 2 months.
Try and sell some bricks.
Yes, the brick order form.
Let me, I'll get,
Yeah. Is in here.
So anyway, the groundbreaking is gonna be at 2 o'clock on May 29th. Love to see you all out there. Kathy just mentioned the brick form. The memorial is gonna be a 10-foot tall obelisk, 6-sided, one for each branch of the military. And we'll be collecting photos and images of different things to be on that. And then at the base around it are gonna be a series of etched bricks. Closest to the memorial will be bricks for individuals that have been killed in action at some point in their military career. And Fred's working very actively with that, with Barb and several others, to collect that list. And then around that will be bricks that anybody can purchase for somebody who's a veteran. My dad was a radio man on C-47s in World War II. He flew the hump. He was part of the China, Burma, India thing. My wife's dad was an artilleryman for the Army on Saipan. So we're buying bricks for them. I met my wife in the Air Force. She's actually the first person I reported to. Still reporting to her 42 years later. And I'm buying her a brick, she's buying me a brick. I'm retired Air Force. So it's a great opportunity to honor somebody in your family or a friend that you want to have a special honor. The bricks are going to be etched. They'll be around the base of the obelisk. That'll be the center point of the memorial. So that's again, May 29th, 2 o'clock, right down the street here. It's going to be a very special event. We're asking all the different veteran groups, the AMVETS, VFW, American Legion are going to be there. So it's going to be very special. So,
And the granite's in, so
and
it is gonna happen.
It is definitely going to happen.
And it's going to be done on,
As Fred just mentioned, the granite has arrived. They're actually starting to build the metal frame that the granite will be attached to. It's being built by a company down in Lebanon called Laser Imaging and Design, and they build memorials for veteran groups all over the country. A year and a half ago, they built the Navy SEALs Memorial in Virginia Beach. That was a $2 million project. Ours was a little bit smaller, but if you donate a couple million, we'll make it big. So anyway, we're still in a fundraising mode. We have a phase 2 that we want to do once we get the first phase built. But we'd love to see you at that ceremony, and there are brick forms in there
In your program.
in your program. So if you'd like to honor a veteran with a brick, you may have noticed that the veteran banners, the hometown hero banners, are starting to go up on Central. Those are the banners from last year, from 2022. The company here in town, PCA Graphics, is, as we speak, making the banners for those that were submitted for this year, and those banners will be going up in the next couple of weeks. And those line Central Avenue from right past the chamber office, right down here, all the way down to Broad Street, and then curves up around Broad. That's another way to honor a veteran. My wife is on one of those, so look for that. But again, all of those are fundraisers to help build this memorial. So, love to see you on Memorial Day. Did I miss anything?
No, I think you got it.
Okay.
Mark the muster. Yeah. Mark will sit down. Here you go. Mark, the mustard.
So we are gonna have our second annual muster here, but it's actually year 17 for us. We had 15 years at the VA. Last year we were at Community Park, but they've got some maintenance issues this year. So we're gonna be on the outer perimeter of Calamityville, the part you see when you drive in on 235. We're gonna have units from the Revolutionary War all the way through the present, and for the first time, we're having a Soviet 9th Guards Rifles Regiment, because remember, at that time, they were our ally. The Rev War guys and the Civil War guys are gonna be firing cannons, not using a full powder load, but it's still pretty impressive if you've never seen that done. And they will let people pull the lanyard, so if you wanna fire a Civil War cannon, come out and see us. The equestrian team will be there, you can come out and pet the horses. It's gonna be a great time, more importantly, it's free. So do us a favor, spread the word, get your families, come out, enjoy a good time. And more importantly, because I've been asked, why do you do it on Memorial Day weekend? Our goal is for people to learn about the service and sacrifices of the people who didn't come home. Now, the reenactment groups, you know, they're full of all this technical data, but it gives you a good idea about the people who served this country and who give us the freedoms that a lot of people take for granted. So if for no other reason, come out for that reason.
How many different reenactors are they gonna have?
It'll be well over 100. We are going to have a World War II field
I mean,
hospital.
different ones, you're gonna have.
Rev War, Civil War. There's some guys from the Spanish-American War that show up yet they never register. There's a guy that has a World War I biplane. He's going to do a flyover
Okay.
when we start. We've got guys doing Vietnam, Global War on Terror. Obviously, World War II has a big, turnout. We've got a World War I guy coming, so it covers the whole time period. All right, there you have it.
Okay, so when a flyer is in your program, I know, I just loaded these up. This is our new brochure. We had those made by the marketing director at Jeff Schmidt. Designed these for us, which is pretty cool. All right, the envelope with the stamp on it. Sponsor a piece of history. You see names on the cases. It's, you give me money and I'll put your name on a case, kind of thing. Yeah, it's, yeah. And for businesses, I mean, this is about the cheapest advertising you're gonna get anywhere. Hey, if you want to volunteer for the muster, see me, so I can put you on the list. And we're open Saturday and Sunday and Memorial Day. And please, I don't want to hear Happy Memorial Day. None of us do. So, okay, I think that's it.
What about museum volunteers?
Oh, yes, we are looking for more volunteers for the museum. Oh, yeah, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here. Yeah, cool beans.
You get a really cool shirt.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and Abby, our youngest, who stands about this tall. Abby is our youngest. Laurel, I think you're our oldest.
That's
Sorry.
well seasoned, ma'am.
Oh, there you go, well seasoned. All right, thanks everybody for coming out. We look forward to seeing you next Wednesday.